Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
वाहेगुरु जी की फतेह।
My name is Dr. Kirpal Singh, and my co-host is Mandeep Singh Laroy. And this is a special edition on September 11 program. Thank you for joining the program at such a short notice. ਸਭ ਨੂੰ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿ ਫਤਿਹ।
वाहेगुरु जी की फतेह।
ਸਲਾਮ ਰਾਮ ਰਾਮ ਜੋ ਵੀ ਪਿਛੋਕੜ ਹੋਵੇ ਪ੍ਰਵਾਨ ਕਰਨਾ। We're thankful to Meghraj Singh Huni, Voice of Manavta TV, for this opportunity to discuss this special program. We start at 9 o'clock now, and we're hoping to end it by after 1 hour. And again, thank you for the audience who are attending. And please remember, these are the individual views by each of us, and this is not the official policy of Voice of Manavta. And we appreciate you subscribing to our programs, and then also share with other people. Any question, pass on to Meghraj Singh. I want to give a brief introduction. It's the 20th anniversary of the September 11 attack, which really shook the whole America. The hijackers first hit the North Tower of the World Trade Center, then 15 minutes later the South Tower of World Trade Center. It was so unexpected and so threatening, and people thought it was an earthquake or maybe some other kind of calamity, or but it was just so unexpected. And this was planned by the Al-Qaeda group of people. And there was third plane which hit the Pentagon, and the fourth plane which was going to hit probably White House, but it crashed at the Pennsylvania airport. So having said that, there are about 3,000 people who lost their lives. And one of the first person to reach the spot was a Sikh physician, Dr. Narendrajit Singh Nijjar, who after a lot of checking finally was able to go as part of the first responders, which is remarkable. And then of course afterwards we had Balbir Singh Sodhi, who was a very dedicated gasoline station operator, who was shot dead by a misinformed person who thought he was part of the terrorism movement, and because he looked like the hijackers. Since that time, there has been a lot of controversy, a lot of plans, a lot of situation brought into attention, but eventually it led to the unity in America. The place is called Ground Zero, where there is a wall where names are inscribed of the people who died, as well as the museum. So since that time, there's a lot of changes which have taken place in worldwide. You know, it has affected the economy, it affected the air travels, it's shook so many companies, it's been tremendous fluctuations. And then, of course, unleashing of the war in Iraq, that was again on a fabricated information that they were collecting the weapons for mass destruction. So one thing leading to another, we have come to quite a chaos in the world. And people like us who often confuse the Afghanis and Iranis become special targets whenever there is something like that is highlighted. So it's very important for our community to be careful and also do some outreach work to connect with the local communities. Having said that, with that brief introduction, I'm going to ask Patia Saab to tell us his experiences on 9/11. Patia Saab ji?
My experience, I was in Florida at that time, and since it happened morning, we just made to the office. in the Siemens office, and suddenly we learnt about it. It's all over the TV. And apparently it was a shock of great dimension. How could that happen? So that was immediate reaction. But then, followed all the news, world of news, everywhere. That was the only news. And obviously, we saw on the TV the towers being hit again and again. And also there were some people who jumped from the tower from very high floors. Obviously, there was no chance of their survival. But that was very, very tragic to see that. But then, of course, this was the whole topic of discussion, meeting, everything. But what struck us most was the impact on our Sikh community. And the first victim was Mr. Sodhi in Arizona. And that started the whole series of attacks on Sikhs everywhere. So we will talk about it as the time goes on. Let everybody first come and speak.
Thank
there's
you.
A very global, what I want to emphasize is that there's a global impact on Sikh community as the aftermath of this so-called the collateral damage.
Thank you.
And I'll talk about it later on.
And again, Sucha Singh, welcome. Thank you for joining us. I know you're so short of time. Please share your experiences on 9/11, about 9/11.
Hanji, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki
Fateh.
So actually, 9/11 when happened, I was still in Pittsburgh. So the day it happened, just the day before that, I was going to go to India actually. So just one night before. So I took flight from Pittsburgh to New York. New York to New Delhi was my straight flight. But when I took flight from here, my flight was delayed in Pittsburgh. So then, as a result, I missed New York to New Delhi flight. So then I had to stay. So I called my friend, I stayed night with him. Then next day, I was calling airline to confirm my next day's flight. So they were saying, okay, so 9 o'clock, I called, everything was okay. So they said my flight on the same day. But after a few hours, then, friend of mine, he was running from outside. He came inside, he said, you cannot go to India today. I said, why not? He said, oh, America the attack ho gaya. I don't know. So, but no, he was right. So then, he said, turn the TV on, turn the TV on. When they turned the TV on, that was the time when exactly the second tower was hit. Yes, that was the time. So then I was stuck there for 4 or 5 days. I could not go out. And another friend, I was just contacting him being in New York. So he said, do not go out. Do not go out. He said, somebody tried to kill me. Somebody tried to, crash me under his pickup truck. But, I got saved because, there was close by, there was tree. So I just took shelter behind the tree. So don't go out. So I was also scared. And another thing is, why I was going to India, my brother-in-law, my sister's husband, he was diagnosed with cancer and he was not doing very well. So I was going to see him. So now, I got stuck here. I wanted to go back there too. So, two traumatic conditions, I was facing with. So then, I got stuck there for 4 or 5 days. So then finally, the little bit things settled down. So then I rented a car from there. I came back because airports were, closed for unlimited time. So I came back to Pittsburgh. Then I think after more than a month, I stayed here. Then I went back to India. So when, when I was coming from New York to Pittsburgh in the car, so I have seen on the toll plazas and one place I have to get gas also. So then people were looking at me like I'm the terrorist. Totally conditions were changed.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so then I dropped the car here in Pittsburgh airport. Then somebody picked me up from there. And I saw there was so much rush and police everywhere, so much stuff, so it was going on. So that's how I was affected.
Thank you for sharing your experience. This is how the life got disorganized suddenly.
Oh yeah.
Harveer, you are there. Would you like to share some of your experiences, please? Welcome. I can't hear. Unmute yourself.
Unmute yourself.
So, and I like, Raj's background there. It's really something we do all need to remember. Absolutely, you're right. This is a day of remembrance for us as Americans, but also as, members of the human race around the world. So I was actually up really early that morning in the West Coast because the day before I had just come back from Florida because my brother's newborn baby, we were there to take turns and taking care of him. So I had just come back the same time in the morning. So I was up really, really early. And I had just, I turned the TV on just to put the news on. It must have been 7 something, I think. And by that time, the first plane had already hit. And I recall calling my parents saying, this is really odd. I think we're under attack. But when I first saw the first plane, I didn't believe it because I thought it was a really violent movie this early in the morning. I said, geez, this is not the kind of stuff I need to be watching the first thing in the morning. I remember that because it was kind of funny at that moment that I had that kind of mindset because it was unfathomable that it could be a real event happening to us. And I then, when I saw the second plane coming towards the building, I quickly called mommy and I called papa when he was as he said, he was in Florida. I said, wake up, America's under attack. And he said, what do you mean? And mommy, of course, papa was at work, as he said. And it just seemed impossible that this could be happening. On one hand, it was that, hey, as a young person, you're like, oh my God, exciting, something's happening. But at the same time, so much fear and confusion and dumbfoundedness was, experienced because it just didn't seem logical, right? Like, how is this possible? We're America. The arrogance of we're America, that can't happen here, right? And at that time, I was at, by then, around 9 o'clock, I was already at the office and everybody at the office was completely astounded. What's possible? And then we found out that our office had a satellite office in that building and with another set of small companies, Aspect Communications, and one of our workers was actually there. And he was a relative of one of the other employees that was at the office that day. And we were all unable to work. We couldn't, you just didn't feel like working because it wasn't only just fear. It was a sense of shock because how is this possible? This is America, right? And I think as it started settling in, I recall feeling the fear and the extreme panic in people that, oh my God, United States is under attack. And people went home. They just could not be around people at the office. They were falling apart left and right. And then the days that followed, I remember we were all in mourning because we lost some of our people from at the office that were at that building. And then we heard about so many people that knew relatives that had a person there just because it was a very, Twin Towers was a very, central place where a lot of business was done, right? And so there were a lot of companies that were there. So everybody knew somebody. And then the picture that I always remember is the second plane hitting the second Twin Tower and the people jumping out of the building. I'll never forget those moments. And as a community, we talk about Balbir Singh Sodhi. I don't know if you all know, his brother passed away sometime after in San Francisco. He was shot as a taxi driver. And a lot of people aren't aware of that. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it's 2 people of his family that were lost. But at that time, we all became very much aware of the the target that the Sikh community had became. And even though I didn't wear a turban, we were all very much aware of it, and we got involved the best we could.
Thank you, Harveer, for sharing. We'll come back to you. Mandeep Singh, any comments from your side regarding your experience with 9/11?
At that time, I was just only 20-year-old at that time. And we Indians always believe that America, US is a very safest country for to living.
Where were you at that time? Were you in
At
USA
that
or
time,
India?
I was just in college at that time. And
No.
morning time when we hear it is just as described by we all that it is a very shocked news for everyone, and it is also shocked for us for that, because we always believe that where there is a terrorism, there is no impact on America. Always, we believe that at that time, but it was a very shocked experience for everyone. Even at that time, I continuously watch TV for 4 to 5 hours at that time, because at that age I was very interested in world politics at that time also, and that experience we cannot forget at that time. It's very
Thank
shocked for
you.
us for all.
So it was a big hit on the American pride and American, belief that we are invincible. That was quite reminds me too about when the Abdali used to attack India, and how the Sikhs will go as like a guerrilla warfare and attack him from the rear and try to make him really, really go crazy. How we are doing all those kind of things reminds me that kind of episode in our history. Brother Singh, where were you at that time when this happened?
Sir, when I was at Lucknow. I was
Anji.
posted at the headquarters there in Lucknow, and we were really very shocked. We could hardly imagine that in a country which keeps watch on human rights, which monitors this terrorist activity, can itself become a victim of of such activities. That was really shocking for us. So in my life, I had seen some very horrible scenes of law and order, of riots, of say, for example, this attack on Babri Masjid. By chance, I was there. I had seen such things, so I could imagine what can happen in such situation. Thousands, hundreds of people were killed, innocent people who had nothing to do with the any complaints of. We don't know what sort of complaint those people were having, whether Al Qaeda or what. I'm not very familiar with the international terrorism, but we could imagine that this was shocking and very unbelievable.
So thank you, Ajay. So the vengeance is such an important, unfortunately, the factor in life, especially when we look at the Old Testament, where the philosophy is eye for an eye, and type of philosophy goes back to the Middle East problems and the terrorism movements, whether they are in political Islam or Palestine or Israel or even the Christianity in the beginning. So, and the same kind of thing we see in the Indian history, how the Brahmanvad led to expulsion of Buddhism from that country. And so it's amazing how these things take place. And gurus have always warned us against these kind of terrorism activities, and cautioned us to live a life of more moral thinking. And as you know, the war policy in Sikhism has a kind of unique aspect, as described in Zafarnama too by Guru Gobind Singh Ji. Again, Sucha Singh Ji, would you like to say something about Sikh views on how to handle these things based on Gurmat? Yes, so Chasangji, did you hear my question?
Your voice cut. I couldn't understand what you're saying. Can you repeat it, please?
Repeat, please. Your
My question is, based on the Gurmat principles, how should we be handling these type of situations?
Oh, like 9/11?
Yep.
Well, I think at that time, Sikh community handled it very nicely. In New York, they offered their help to go there, and they had, I mean, because of the so many reasons, governor, he did not accept our help at that time because he did not want to create more problems, because common masses, they did not know who we are. So, but at the same time, they accepted langar, so they used to get langar from, but the I think 118th Street Gurdwara, big Gurdwara there. It used to langar started going from there, and the many other things they helped with, and same thing here also. So we approached our local community members, our police chief, and FBI also. I mean, so much stuff we did, and within a month or so, we started. We went to kitchen soup here, soup kitchen, and we served langar there, just to show who we are, and we distributed the pamphlets about Sikhism also. So those kind of things we can do. But the thing, only one problem with our community is when something happens to us, then we wake up, then we start to do everything.
Yeah.
But afterwards, right way, we forget everything, and then we sleep. We do not care. So we should do constantly these things, constantly. Always we should create the awareness in the outer community, who we are. We should let them know. So, since then, I think people have started working on these things, and we are more participating in the interfaith things and other communities also. So, we have been going to municipality. When the municipality elections are there, I go to there, to the prayers also. So because, they offer prayers from Christianity, Muslim, Hinduism, and I go from the Sikh point of view. So those things we have to do constantly, not only at the time when something happens bad like that. So yeah, we have been doing.
That's good advice. Thank you. Very good advice. Padisa?
Unmute, please.
Padisa, unmute yourself.
Sorry, immediately when it happened, we assessed the danger to our community, and myself and some other people from Gurdwara, we went to the local Orlando Sentinel office, which is the local newspaper, and to tell them the situation with us, and requested them that they should do something about it and publish something about us. Because that time, there's one gentleman, Mr. Pensky, he was very familiar with the Sikh religion. So one of us, he put us on the chair and had some short TV interview. So what happened to that afterwards, we do not know. We do not see it in any paper. But that's what we did at that time. But my thinking is that the impact of this on the Sikh community has been global. Not only in the USA, as you mentioned about Dr. Nijar, I met him. He is now in Florida. He was there first because he worked close by. And people made a comment on him, hey, why the hell are you here?
Yes.
I mean, even though he was there to help, still the people kind of, had a very bad view of him and gave a comment, hey, why are you here? So it's very disheartening. And apparently that's the reason why he left. Now he's in, I think, close to Gainesville. So what I'm saying is that there was a problem all over the places. I had stories from people who in their offices, young Sikh engineers, they still spit on it. And the thing is, those people who worked in the office for so long, and still they don't know, they didn't bother to know who we are.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
pity. As a colleague, as engineers, also they didn't know who this guy is. And when something like this happens, everybody pounces upon you and targets you as somebody who's a criminal. I remember in my Siemens office, a TV crew came, and I happened to be downstairs, and they interviewed me, um, and I made my statement that nobody should be discriminated regardless of what kind of a dress code they have, without any facts. So these are the kind of things we did. Since I was already a part of the Interfaith Council,
Thank
we
you.
continue to start this.
Thank
And
you.
what I want to tell you right now, is I want to finish it. The global impact on Sikhism. These remember what's happening to Sikhs in Afghanistan?
Yes.
Sikhs lived in Afghanistan even when Taliban were ruling it. A lot of Sikhs lived there peacefully. Taliban ruled. But suddenly, because of all these problems happening, then ISIS came in, and they started attacking Sikhs. How many Sikhs have been killed since then? So I believe that the situation with the Sikhs in Afghanistan is also a result of this continued problem as a result of 9/11. So, and we have hate crimes in this country, so many. This year alone, since 44% increase in the hate crime against Sikhs have happened. So this is a continuous challenge for us.
Thank you for sharing that, Harveer. Uh, Harveer, and what's how the situation is being handled in California? I hear Valerie Kaur is very active.
Yeah, Valerie's always been on that subject, and she, is lucky that she could devote her life to this type of work. I mean, first her movie came out as a misidentity or something to that effect, but then I think we all soon realized
mistaken identity. Yeah.
Thank you, Papa Hanji. Mistaken identity, but we all soon realized, and as she did, that isn't the intention. We don't want people to, say it's okay to harm anybody that does not deserve to. And as Papa said, that the idea was that we don't, as the Sikhs, is always sarbatapala. And that doesn't mean we don't take care of our own, of course, but that also means that we have to be careful that while taking care of our own, that we don't say it's okay to hurt somebody else. And so that was, in terms of, to be very honest, this is an exponential effect that was already going on in the United States. And Papa doesn't remember this for whatever reason because he was very optimistic at that time, but I directly remember it. It was Iran-Contra. And people used to, make fun of anybody wearing a turban and saying, oh, Khomeini, go back. Go back, Khomeini. And that was in the 80s. So this is not something that was new to this country. It's just it got worse because it happened here. And let's be honest, all of us as Americans, and for me as a naturalized citizen, as many of you are, we don't carry that kind of that sense of entitlement. But as Americans, there is a lot of sense of entitlement that how dare anybody do that to us. But the truth is, the whole world has gone through such terrors and attacks and wars on their land. This was the first for us from an outside country, and so it was a wake-up call for everyone. But as a Sikh, we all keep thinking this is going to get better, and I'm going to announce something today because it's because I don't feel that anybody's doing enough about it. You all know that I've been in technology and civic service as a side part all of my life, but doing community service and creating Sikh awareness has been my life's mission since I can remember as a child coming to the United States, because I had to become the tough one because I didn't like how people looked at my dad and my brother. And I became the way I am because of that. Everybody has a different reason. Mm-hmm. But as of yesterday, I've put in my resignation as a technologist to put my full time into this work. I am very scared.
That's very commendable.
Thank you, Uncle. Papa will need to keep hearing that because he's of course, very scared for me. But I'm hoping that our community will put their mouth and put the words and mouths into action, because this cannot be left to somebody else to do. We must do it for ourselves. We can't expect somebody's going to suddenly wake up and start caring about our people. If we don't stand up and we don't have people like me with my kind of professional and executive leadership background take such roles, we will not get in front of this. And we will not get in front of this for many generations. So as a Sikh, what does it mean to me? It means to me that I better put my mouth into the walk and talk and into that action, because I don't see that this is going to get any better until somebody takes that risk and puts their own, life at risk.
Sacrifice. Not many people talk about these things, but when it comes to really carrying out, people usually back out. So, so again, thank you for taking a high road and implementing what you actually believe in. Having said that, how do you compare this with the Pearl Harbor attack on the United States?
So because it wasn't mainland, that's a very different experience, right? So, I mean, when we think about mainland and think about what people have faced out here, when I say this, they remember that, but as terms of as we talk about, as we talk about a nation with constant hearing about others, they still don't feel it, but they felt it after 9/11.
Yes, we have a situation where the Ghadar movement started.
That's right,
in
California.
Stockton, and then you can also think about how in California, in British Columbia, when the Kamangata-Maru situation,
That's right,
where people were pushed back, and how that led to the movement called Babbar Akalis. And again, one thing leading to another, those kind of things comes to my mind while we look at the 7/11 situation.
Yeah, you're totally right. That 9/11 is not just the only, not the only milestone in our history in the United States that we have faced difficult times. And you hit the nail on the head, as you said, that starting from Kamagata-Maru, and then those that even came in 1890s from Ellis Island, a lot of that isn't there. And my goal is to, really learn all this history and spread it. So we are reassured and understand that, this isn't a one-time event. And these incidents continue to happen. Look at FedEx, what happened at the FedEx building in Indianapolis. Yes. So you're absolutely right. We have to also remember that those things happen, but we are also very resilient people, and we don't stay down very long.
Yeah, and the same kind of situation happened in 1907 when there were Bellingham riots. Bellingham.
I was aware of that.
Yeah, and in Bellingham now they have created a arch which is called Reconciliation Arch to commemorate that how lesson we learned from that, and how instead of forgetting the history, how we made amendments. And as a result, now there are more than 6,000 farmers living in that county, Whatcom County.
Wow.
And the chief executive of that county is a friend of mine, Kirpal Singh, who's from village near Ludhiana and a graduate of Guru Nanak Engineering College, who after a bitter battle was elected as the chief executive of Whatcom County.
That's good news. So good to know. Thank you for sharing.
All these, when people are forced to go to the school of hard knocks, something better emerges out of it. That's what happened to us after first Kalukara, second Kalukara, 1984 attacks and all that. So even partition itself, I'm sure Patia Saab can talk about it.
You're right. We're very resilient people, and I think that's what we have to stay focused on. Not that things are not getting better, but there is still work to be done, and we have to recognize that work, but we also have to remember our people do not stay down very long. We are so resilient, and we are always in Chardi Kala, but we just, as Sucha Singh uncle said, but we also forget sometimes that we need to do this, we need to get ahead of it. We don't need to wait for it to happen to do something about it. And I think that's probably a very important lesson, not just from today, but we forget to look at our recent history. How many people, how many communities around the world have such a short history, and that they should be able to directly learn from? Not many. Maybe the Baha'i, maybe the Zoroastrians, yeah, sure, but or the Mormons. But seriously, our history is so short that we should not be forgetting all these things, and myself included.
Yeah. Why? And we also have a broken up, really Sikh community in the sense that this is Sikhligars and this is non-panthis and this is this and that and all that kind of stuff. Somehow we need to come together,
Yeah.
recognizing that diversity is part of the
Hmm.
creator's way of doing
Vision.
things. Same way diversity exists within the community, but we fail to recognize and honor it.
You know, Uncle, that's probably a nice topic for another day. But I will just say in closing to that, that there's a difference between, like, practicing Sikhi, but administering it and institutionalizing it as a framework. That's where people get confused. Well, what am I supposed to do? What are the boundaries of my, the practices? And I don't want to get into that just now, but I just want to say that that's a practical challenge that we have to figure how to solve. But I think the one
Yes,
thing is for sure that whether we're Nanak where anybody else, Amritaris or Namtaris or Gursikhs or so many things. There's people have labels. The point is we all still have this one common belief, that we all believe
yes,
that there's one humanity and we are all from that same one God.
yeah.
So yeah.
And that's also ties with Bhajendra Singh, ties with the bhaktis where Kabirji comes into picture and Ravdas ji and Namdev ji and how they all have a place in Guru Granth Sahib because of their devotion to oneness. But despite that, what gurus did to bring them together, the community still remains splintered and relapsing back into Hinduism by going back to the statue worship and all those kind of things.
You see, sometimes even simple people become victim of conspiracies. Usually, when the society is unbalanced, it is a sick society. So people are subjected to injustices, terrorism. Then there is a state terrorism also. So the whole thing is the unbalanced society, and which is a sign of a sick society. And generally, this financial aspect, like black money, drug business, all that, such people are very well known to the government also. They have their connections, and still no action is taken against them. So these are very organized activities, and generally it has been seen that because of their economic power or vested interest, even those who are in power, they indulge in such activities, and these activities are generally known to the government. But you see, people keep on complaining. Police didn't take any action. Police was just watching. When people were being butchered, police was watching. Why it happens? It happens because those who are perpetrating injustice, they are in the power. So
Mhm.
then second cause is this blind faith also.
Mhm.
When people do not use their logic, then the young element particularly, they can be very easily on the power of propaganda, they can be
Mhm.
misled. So various causes are there, but generally it is the simple people innocent people who become victim of terrorist activities,
Thank
who
you.
have nothing to do.
Bhai Mandeep Singh, your views now?
About that, just Vijendra ji described very nice about that, because it is a just that short of knowledge
Yes. Uh,
on the guru's teaching, that happens always.
yeah, just
That's
one sec. I will come back to you. Sorry, but Gyani Sucha Singh have to leave. So Gyani ji, before you leave, I've got one question for you.
Okay.
Uh, Regarding anything you like to contribute here, how we should continue to learn lessons as a Sikhs from the 9/11 situation, and how to organize ourselves better for self-security.
Hanji, I think the main important thing is we should create awareness for our identity, for our religion. We should invite more outside people in the gurdwaras.
yes.
Do not just do the langars for our people and eat and go. So we should invite other people. We did once, very nice program that was called Know Your Neighbor. Know your neighbor. So we did that. We invited almost whole Pittsburgh, and we invited all our neighbors, school teachers, principals, like municipality people, also everybody, county executive. So that was very good program. So that created so much awareness. So that's what we are lacking here. So we should get knowledge. The one thing is, the American society, we have seen, over the years, they are mostly, they do not care who is moving in their neighborhood. We are different people. So we do care when somebody comes, in our neighborhood, or we want to see who is there. But their mentality is totally different. So then we have to reach out to them. We should. And we should do more programs. And, like always you say, we should go and celebrate their festivals and their holidays. We should get involved in that sense also. So
Thank you, Ji. So we should have, Hani, very nice. We should have open house type of situation.
Yes,
Like people have block parties, So we neighborhood in the Gurdwara invite and all, especially special days when we're talking about Guru Nanak birthday, Baisakhi and all those times, so that we integrate with the community better. And it's a good message.
Right.
And
So, I want to share, one incident here. After long time after 9/11, so myself and my daughter, my daughter was, younger daughter, she was about maybe 4 years old back then. So, she was holding my hand. We are going into the store, Kmart store. It was just, kind of dusk time, and another couple, they are coming from front. So when we are crossing each other, so then this guy said to his friend or wife, whoever she was, he said, "Honey, you know what? I want to kill that Osama." So I looked at, so where it's coming from? Yeah, he want to kill Osama, fine. But why when he is crossing me? All right. So then, it took me, just seconds to think, seconds. So then I said, I have my child with me, but I think he has, his friend or wife also. He cannot attack me, but let me talk to him. I just turned back. I said, "Sir, excuse me for a minute, please." So that's, I said, I heard what you say. I also want to feel like same like you. As you said, I also feel like that. I'm glad you said that. I said, then I told him that I'm a priest. I'm living here for many years. I know police chief. I know many people here, municipality chief, everybody I know very well. When you're ready for that, please let me know so I can help also someday. So then he shook hand with me. "Oh, sir, thank you so much." All that.
That was wonderful. Similar kind of episode I had not too long ago. My wife and I went to she had a shoulder problem, orthopedics office. And there was a guy who was looking at me right and left, and she got scared. She said, "Watch this guy, and he's dangerous," and all that kind of said. I said, "Don't worry, I know how to handle." I just went to him. I said, "Sir, just for your information, I'm from India, and I am wear this turban because that's part of my faith, Sikh and all." Oh, he said, "Yeah, please tell me more about your faith and all that." Yeah. And we I broke my ice and had a good time, and my wife was so surprised to see that how the situation was changed.
Right, so that's how we have to reach out. Yeah, we have to reach out. Yeah, we have to show them. They won't care who we are. Yeah. We need it. We need to tell them. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Ji. Thank you for sharing. I know you have to go. Please, thank you for joining us.
Okay. Thank you, sir. And Vaheguru Ji ka Khalsa.
Vaheguru Ji ka Fateh. Hari Patia Sahab, your turn now.
Well, the same stories. Thing is that there's certain bias that exists in this country against the immigrants. There's no question about it. And since we stand out because of our identity and because of our physical appearance, we are often the target. Harbir was talking about Iran-Contra. Same thing happened then. Whenever there's a problem in the world somewhere, Americans have, they try to associate us with that situation.
Mhm.
For example, there was a problem short time in Bush's time, senior Bush time, when they attacked Kuwait with a short 3-day war. And then we were traveling to this place, North Carolina, and somebody says, "Oh, are you from Kuwait?" If there's a problem with Iran, they say, "Are you from Iran?" I
Mhm.
mean, wherever there's a problem, they'll try to associate us with that place.
Yeah.
That's just the general nature of these people. And very educated people like that. I remember when we were building our Gurdwara, at that time also, uh, it was 2001, because our Gurdwara was still under construction. I walked in the construction site, and one of the workers, he was a Mexican, of course. Oh, and then Osama bin Laden's brother comes. Even though they are working for us as the contractor, still they had these brainless people. So no matter what you do, there will be certain people in this country who will always have a bias because you don't look like that.
Yes.
Attack on Wisconsin Gurdwara is another example. Okay. It is not that they don't know us. It was in the papers. I read that report on Yahoo. They said, "Hey, we know who you are." These people who attacked this Burmese, it was their statement. He said, "We know who you are. We want to kill you and want you to take your dead to and drop them in the Ganges." So it is not that they don't know who we are. Despite the fact that they know us, still they don't like us. So it's a
You have a
constant
point
challenge.
there, but this has happened all over our history within India too. The same thing. It's not just outside; it happened in India, and that's what happened when Sikhs were in close to Afghanistan and all those areas, and in Kashmir and all. Even in nowadays, people living in Bhopal and other kind of places, nobody really knows them that well. They just think uh, because we lack the outreach work. That's a big problem. We can feed people langar, but we never tell them who we are, and we assume that they already know it.
No, but
It just doesn't
no,
happen
no,
that
I disagree. Within India, they know very well who Sikhs are. I mean, if they.
No, that's not right, Paisa. I talked to Dr. Chadha. He lived in and raised in Bhopal, in Or and all those areas. He said no, nobody knew, and we had big problems and all. Sometimes I'll have him talk about the issues they went through
It's
growing
possible.
up in that area. Hanji.
It's possible. It is possible.
Hanji. So I'm going to go back by Mandeep Singh. Anything you like to add over here from your experiences?
Just Bhatia Sahab tells us because there is the mentality of the people. We cannot change too much because it is still there. Because after Indira Gandhi assassination, it happens against Sikhs at their time. That time also, innocent people's killed at that time, and same problem after 9/11 on here on our community at that time. Same because the mentality of the people. How can we change?
Paisa,
Because
Paisa, you're talking about mentality of people. What about our mentality when we say Biharis are spoiling the culture of Punjab? When we say these are Avdasiyas, they are destroying the situation. These are Labanas, these are Ramgadiyas, these are some other kind of people. What our mentality of discriminating within the Sikh community? All these people.
that's about those people, those who know really about the main teachings of, because we are united, but everyone has to realize about that. But the mentality again going the thing on my mentality, that how can we change our mentality? Because it is a ego problem always, that I am upper caste, those who is a opponent, he is a lower caste. We think that we have to change that according
Yeah.
to the teachings of Guru Granth Sahib. We have to change that.
Yeah.
But how can if there is a ego in ourselves, then how can we change that?
Yeah, but that's right. But that's why we do so much part of Japji Sahab, and we keep on saying, "Hume andar, hukme andar sabko bahar ko na koi je ko
Hmm.
hukme
मुझे
mujhe
मुझे तो
samajh
हमें
hai
क्या
na koi." And but where does those practices go in the real life, whether you, in the Sikh institution? My point is, this mentality is not only in these people, but it's also within us. Like we say, oh, Kala hai, oh, Gora hai, oh, Flana, Mexican hai, and all that. Asi kade, do we take time to know who those people are?
Yes, because you know that just we justify always ourselves, we just, but not to others. That what is the problem? That we just feel about only ourselves, not to the others. That's the thing happens in our mind always, and that's the really problem about we are the
So
human beings.
problem is within us, begins from us. Guru Nanak
Yes,
Sahib went to Makkah and Baghdad and talked to those people instead
yes,
of sitting in Nankana Sahib. While
yes,
we are in these countries, we still don't talk to these people who are
yes.
our neighbors and who are our co-workers and all, other than very limited.
I
Uh,
suggest to my committee on here that on Guru Nanak birthday we have to just call our all neighbors 2 3 streets. We are just because on there it is not like Austin that there is a very long homes and it's very far away. On here it is a houses are very close near about the Gurdwara, and they are all Americans on here. And I am suggesting that we have to just manage a open house on here for 2 times in a year. I
yeah,
suggest
good idea.
again and again. And we also offering, because there is our one neighbor on here, and she is just priest in the church, and she's a religious teacher. I offered myself that if you want, I am interested in that I want to just share my experience and my religion teachings with you and yourself, your peoples. I want to just do that I offer him so many times, and that's very, and she responds me a lot always. And I am try again and again to peoples, meet the peoples always, just make 1 round 2 round, and they are also appreciate when we are going to play at the in the ground, and they also like us, and they always say that you win or your friend win. Always they are also just like that type of peoples, that they are very friendly in their mind always on here. That's
Thank you
very
for
nice
sharing that.
experience on here about
That's
they will never, but they will never let you go into the church and speech. They will not do that.
Uh,
Right there.
I think yes, it maybe happen, but uh, that we want to introduce ourselves always, not in the church, whatever. If we are on talking with them on the street, on the
Yeah, yeah.
everywhere, just we can use that type of platforms. If they wishes us, we wish them good, speaking gently, politely. That's with that methods we can
At least that's
attach
a start.
ourselves to them. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
a start.
yeah.
Harveer, what is your experience in that area? Harveer? Harveer, can you unmute yourself, please?
Hanji, sorry, Hanji. So
What,
yeah,
what
so
your experience, how in your neighborhoods and in California, how things are being done? Because I think as far discrimination is concerned, that's the way life is organized. Even the classification system itself uh,
Mhm.
is sort of discrimination. When the Irish came in this country, Polish came, Jewish came, they all went through the same kind of situation.
yeah, absolutely right. And so in terms of that, I guess the Sikh awareness is generally a problem. So after the Elk Creek shootings, I
Mhm.
actually started going to. I mean, just a very recent example I'm giving you. Started going to what's called National Night Out around the United States. And what National Night Out is an opportunity to meet, other community members, law enforcement, which is including your police, your fire, and everybody else. And so I started to, myself and Mummy actually, and some local friends got together and started making these fact sheets, fact postcards about Sikhi, because I always, I always did that since I was a kid, but I realized I needed something a bit more tangible in my hand. So I started doing that. But as a general rule, I think if you don't live in diverse communities, you must make much more of an active effort to be going outwards or outwardly. And to do that, we used to do a lot of volunteer work. And in volunteer work, I really believe that it's one of the best ways to build bridges of understanding, because you're working towards solving a common problem. So it's not about each other. And so, and we found that to be a very effective method for us as kids and us growing up in the United States. But I think there are organizations doing this work, and at least in my Bay Area, there's an active effort constantly because there's a Sikh population. But there's no central organized way, which is fine because everybody needs to do it as a grassroots way. And it's been going on with families like ours. We used to go to assembly in the morning. Papa, Mama used to give, updates to the kids that here's my brother. This is his hair.
Yes. I want to emphasize what you were saying about volunteering. The volunteer spirit is the main thing in Sikhism. Even when you look at the selection, Panj Pyare, they were not selected or appointed. They were volunteers.
But the point of that is, though, I think that volunteer spirit, or that when you volunteer, and this is what I believe, not just for Sikh community, I also remember this from Israeli and Palestinian issues, where you came together to work on a project, you became less afraid of each other and less about each other, but your common goal became the objective. And through that, you built understanding with each other because you're focused on a problem versus about each other. And so today, I think if we were to do that around the country and we continue to use that as a tool to do, of course, seva, but at the same time, a great way to build understanding.
Yes, exactly. And that was exactly the concept where the Langar started. Sangat and Pangat concept is the same. Yep. Slowers around the Gurdwaras are the same, to break those barriers and bring people together.
Yeah.
And same.
Well, this is my mission now. This is my mission now. My mission now is to do Sikh awareness in every which way. I've seen enough. I don't need to, feel afraid of taking that risk to do it anymore. And I don't mean to make this about myself, but I'm noticing that the Sikh awareness is not something that you just go to talk to somebody and say, hi, I'm a Sikh. That's just not enough, right? That's one step, which is a very important step. So don't get me wrong. It's a very important step. What I'm saying is that that's not enough. We need to go further. We need to do it in a very committed manner and follow through, not just one way. We have to attack it from different dimensions. One is, you learned about me through this maybe slide presentation, or you came to my church, or I went to your church, or you came to my. We have to work with them also when there are their issues. For example, on when we think about the Jewish community, right? When it comes to remembering the Holocaust, I make sure to participate in the ways I can. When it comes to Black Lives Matter or MLK, we were always told to go to, with our parents to the MLK marches. See, we have to do both way reciprocation. And that's where, when we start thinking it's only when we need somebody and they should just learn about us, it's what you said earlier. It's equally our responsibility to be open-minded and open and welcoming to them as well.
Exactly. I totally agree with you. Padisa, what's your view on that?
Please unmute yourself. Padisa, unmute.
Again, I'm muted because some words of noise. And we have been doing that in Orlando because of the interfaith work I have been doing for the last 20 years. We have had many such meetings. I have gone and given lectures in university, schools, community colleges, in churches also, but they have separate organized small group of people. And we had a whole series called Religion 101 lesson in a synagogue in a Jewish place, where we had lectures on each religion, and we answered questions and answers. I have published a couple of articles in the local newspaper also. But awareness of the Sikhs has to continue. It's an ongoing process. And Harbir has done a lot of effort to declare November as a Sikh Awareness Month in California. And that's very creditable. She has worked tirelessly for that. Yeah. And people in the local, not only the state assembly, they know her. She has gone there and they know her very well.
That's
And
great.
yeah, once it happened to be that she went there for some reason, she will tell you. She
Turban
went
Day.
into the assembly, huh?
Turban Day.
Turban Day.
Turban
And
Day, yeah.
it happened to be her birthday. So
Mhm.
can you imagine that all the assembly people, they got up and sang happy birthday to her?
That's wonderful.
Yes,
Yeah, it was
that
cute. It was
was,
a little
I
awkward, but
got,
cute.
I went to tears on that.
Yeah,
So,
that is wonderful. Hey,
yes.
Harvey, did you have contact with Kamala Harris?
No, actually, I don't. I mean, some of my friends have contacts with her sister very well, and she's very active. But the truth is that she didn't really connect a lot with her South Asian side of her roots until probably a little bit before the election. But I've been told that I should really reach out to her. But as of yet, it hasn't happened.
Mhm. I see. Brindra Singh ji, going back to you, any ideas you like to say further?
Because actually, I have seen certain these violent situations, particularly the communal situation in UP. Suddenly, there were attacks on Christians in 90s.
Yeah.
Actually, the earlier the attacks were on Muslims, but
Mhm.
suddenly there were attacks on Christians right from Kanmal to tribal belt of UP. And one bishop asked
In
me,
Odisha, it's happened also. In Odisha, that was led by
in Odisha in
Randall.
Kanmal, one
Yeah.
that pastor was killed.
Yeah.
Mr. Stens, Pastor
Australian
Stens was
pastor
killed.
that was it.
है ना? So the bishop of Lucknow, he asked me, we are not asking for anything. We are very peace-loving people. We pray in our churches. Why there are attacks on us? We are not even asking for any reservation also.
Yeah.
So I told him that you keep your people blind politically.
Uh-huh.
Even if you do not discuss them in the church, at least you can discuss outside. There are problems of social injustice.
Yeah.
There are problem of people are asking for social justice. When at that time that Mandal Commission report had become very controversial. So I told him that these attacks are not because you believe in interfaith dialogue or you are very peace loving person or you the attacks are because the issue is different. The issue is social justice. And the backward classes, almost more than 50%, they are demanding, they are asking for their social rights,
Fair
political
share,
rights.
yeah, right.
So,
So what was
but
the
the
situation?
attacks were on the Christians.
I
Attacks
see.
were on the Muslim, and they were talking of power and all that.
Minorities.
So,
Yeah.
so what I say is that people should be kept politically aware because
Yeah.
there may be them the issues may not be religious, issues may be political, but attacks on religious communities.
Yes. What was the situation in 1980?
You're very right about that. Most issues. Sorry, Uncle. I just wanted to say that you're very right, and most issues are actually political in the first place.
Brother Singh ji, what was the situation in 1984 and after assassination of Indira Gandhi? How did you handle the sex situation there?
Yeah, at that time I was a Supreme Police SP in a very sensitive area. It was called Chicago of India. That was Gorakhpur. Their mafias were ruling there.
It is a famous.
So the situation suddenly became nobody could imagine. One the district in charge was a Sikh fellow. So when this Indira Gandhi's that assassination took place, he just went there. One meeting was being organized, and since he was the district in charge, he also went there to speak something. And there was the same evening there were attacks on Christians, the Sikhs. So I could imagine that next day the situation is going to be very dangerous. So even the Sikhs, they could never have imagined that such a situation will be created. And the next day, the things were so terrible that we found it very difficult to control them. Of course, there was no murder of any Sikh, but certainly Gurdwaras were burnt, attacks were there. So situation was really very horrible. But these were organized gangs of criminals also who were taking advantage of such situations.
So that's a kind of same worldwide phenomenon, these things. And so we're coming to the close of the session. So, Sarvesh Singh ji, Meghraj Singh ji, you like to say something here? Hello?
He's not on here. I think.
Okay. So as a Sikh community, gone through 7/11 and our own issues and problems and all that. So we need to be proactive instead of being passive and wait for something bad to happen. So for proactive, I'm glad, Harveer, you are doing the November awareness month for the Sikh community. And there's a fellow who does the Captain America type of situation. He brings about through his cartoons and other things.
Vishwajit.
Awareness, yes.
Vishwajit.
Hani. And then Valerie is doing in her own way.
Yeah,
trying
Uncle?
to. Yes.
Yes, please.
Uncle, can we, I would like to invite Vishwajit to one of these events if you're okay with it.
Sure, that would be fine.
Okay.
That would be fine. So again, I appreciate that your proactive attitude toward these things, and we need more and more young people to provide leadership like you are doing and be involved into these matters. Because we now in the senior situation, we can be more advisors rather than do it things actually ourselves. Ki khayal hai Padia sahab?
No, you're right. I mean, thing is that, as I said before, this is an ongoing challenge. And we can't just stop and say, hey, we are done. No, we are not done. We will never be done. We have to continue to bring awareness. And at the same time, we also should be careful that no matter how much effort we do for bringing awareness, there will be a certain section of society who will never understand because their minds are biased and they will hate us. And hate crimes will continue to happen.
You have a point. If we look at the Jewish community, how much they have suffered and being persecuted and all over the world and everything since the loss of their kingdom in, Jerusalem and all that. Same way, we are a relatively little larger community than them, but gone through all kinds of persecution. Maybe there's some lessons we can learn from them, how to survive and continue to struggle for the better.
I can tell you what they do. First of all is the education.
Yep.
They make sure that their children are well educated about their faith, about their language. Somebody once commented that if a Jew is hiding in a trench when the war is going on, they still will be teaching their kids in the trenches about them.
Yeah. Their history. Yep.
Yes. And so that's very important. They want to keep the memories alive. Whatever happened 40 years ago or the 45 years ago in the Second World War, every small detail they are recorded. There are books and pamphlets. There's a lady who was 95 years old. She's a survivor of these prison camps, the camps which was kept by Nazis. She managed to escape somehow because at the end of the war, she was rescued. And every year, they celebrate her birthday. And what they do is send letters to all the community, please donate for her birthday. This is how they collect money. There's so many innovative ways of collecting money, using that money to protect and enhance their community's welfare. So we are very, very naive on that. Our programs are just langar, gurdwara, kirtan. We do not devote ourselves to these kind of activities.
There's a
We don't invest in ourselves. Actually, we don't do much investing in ourselves.
Yeah, you are right. That's the right word I was thinking of.
Yeah. Harveer, there's an anti-defamation league by the Jewish community. They've been helping the Sikhs in so many ways. Are you aware of that? Their activities? Please unmute
I know
yourself.
about the ACLU. I know about the ACLU, but I wasn't aware that the Anti-Defamation League is working on it.
Yes, ACLU does, but anti-defamation is by the Jewish community, their wing, who has been helping
Okay.
Sikhs, increasing awareness, and our turbans and their skull cap and all, they've been talking things together.
Okay.
And they are different levels, Congress and even Senate and all other places. So they really been helping the Sikh community, to my knowledge.
You know, Jews have been in this country for so long, much longer than us.
Mhm.
And despite that, there's a certain bias against them. You remember there was an attack on their synagogue in Pennsylvania,
Mhm.
which was after the Wisconsin Gurdwara. So if you go to any of these programs where they have service in their synagogues, there's police outside, and a lot of police outside. So they
Mm.
take care of their protection, and that requires money. So these people have a lot of money. They ਸਾਡੇ ਵਾਂਗ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ ਕਿ we go to Gurdwara, put $1 or $2 and have langar and come back. They have to pay hundreds of dollars every time they go to attend their service. So it's very expensive.
The reason for that is because they are made conscious that how important it is to be part of the community, right
Yes.
from the very beginning. And survival depends on bringing the community resources together for self-protection.
Yeah,
And look,
they're a very organized way of managing all these funds and the programs.
look at the Jewish centers. They are often Jewish community center where there's, different groups are using them, like Alcoholic Anonymous or Scouts and all other kinds of, instead of lying vacant, those places, they are being utilized for some purpose. That increases their connection with the communities.
That's right. That's right.
Couldn't our Gurdwara be used for some of those activities, similar kind?
I don't think they allow that. They don't allow.
I mean, there's something to think about, and not necessarily in the assembly hall, but in other parts.
Yeah, I was just saying that in San Jose Gurdwara, we actually have an open hall area that's separate from the main Divan hall. And we often let that be used by community groups for, like petitions or voting centers or questions about healthcare. So it's often used, at least in San Jose, because they've thought of that and built the space for that. So I think it's about being mindful and having space, because you can't do it in the main Divan hall, but we do need other spaces that would be a great way to interact and engage the rest of the public.
Mm-hmm.
I remember in our Gurdwara, once there was some Gurdwara, some kids were practicing Bhangra for a special Vaisakhi day or something in the Langar hall. And some senior guy said, "Oh, dekho ji, sada dharam da ki hal ho raha hai. What's happening to our religion? They are desecrating the Gurdwara. They are doing Bhangra in the Gurdwara now." That's what. I mean, this is the kind of sentiment.
Yes. Well, we have to educate our people ourselves and also emphasize education, more and more Gurmat education, and from the childhood, little children. Hani, Mandeep Singh, you have something to say?
I am very impressed by my sister. I met first time Harbir, and I am very impressed by their views and their activities. I like that. This is our first meeting with her on my behalf. I am meeting him her first time. That's a very good experience for me, and even Jasveer Singh ji are also too great for that, and I really appreciate. And we have to remember those who lost their life in 9/11. We have just at morning time tomorrow. We will also pray for that in our when
Beautiful.
there is a weekly program
great.
going on. Yeah. Thank you very much.
By the way, Harbir knows Parminder.
Oh, okay.
And she also knows my niece who lives in Tracy. So we're
Okay.
kind of
Yep.
part of the same group. And she
Uh,
Yeah.
also knows Harinder and all other people.
Yep.
Parminder is my big Didi, always. I remember her always. Hmm.
So thank you again. Anything else like you like to add, Brinda Singh ji?
Gee, this particularly these hate organizations we must keep watch on them, number one.
Yeah.
And then the political education should be given, because the reasons are extreme inequalities and injustice in the society. That
Mhm.
is one very important factor. And
Yeah.
when so many complaints are there, these criminals and the communal elements, they take advantage of such situations. And because they are resourceful economically, and because they are highly organized, they can inflict all sort of violence on the innocent people.
Yeah,
So
that is
people
true.
should be educated politically. At the same
Yes.
time, watch should be kept on such communal and hate organizations.
Thank you.
You
Thank
know,
you.
can I just add something, Uncle? There's a there's a website called, and I think Papa can correct me if I'm wrong, because this came out in 2016 by one of the universities. It's called hatemap.org. Hatemap.org. It keeps a track of all the hate organizations, and of course, it went up by the hundreds after Trump became president. But if anybody wants to know that site and keep a watch on it to see what's happening around the country, please keep a note of that website, hatemap.org.
Hatemap.org. Thank you. Apne, Meghraj Singh ji, you want to say anything before we close? All right, ji, thank you for all the participants, and thank you, Harveer, Patia Saab, Barendra Singh ji, and Mandeep Singh ji for being part of it, and Yani Sucha Singh just left. It's been a fruitful discussion. Hopefully, lesson learned from this program we can practice in our own homes and with our neighbors and in our own gurdwaras. And that's where really the whole idea of all this discussion is. And
Yeah.
please remember in your service, paying tribute to the 9/11 victims tomorrow when the Sunday service comes. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki
Waheguru Ji
Fateh.
ki fateh.
Thanks a lot
Thank
to
you.
join the program.
Thank